Cool then. Can everybody see my screen? Somebody just message कर देना या मतलब chat में डाल देना if they can see it. Cool. Awesome. Cool, then we'll start. So this is our seventh course, I think. Sorry, seventh class. So today we are going to cover two of the topics which you guys are very eager to understand, I feel. So one is NFTs and one is DeFi. So before we go there, we'll just look at the slide which we had looked at in the sixth class, which is the Web 3.0 equivalents. This is important to understand for a point which will come later, but look at the kind of equivalents we have. We have a browser equivalent. We have a storage equivalent. We have a video and audio calls equivalent. We have an operating system, a social network, messaging, and even something which can look for remote jobs. All of them have equivalents which are decentralized Web 3.0. But किसी ने एक बहुत अच्छा सवाल पूछा था कि what is the point? How do these make money? Like, how is this sustaining itself, or how is this sustaining itself? Because like transaction fees, everything, all of that stuff. So that is an answer which even I couldn't find properly, because all of these have such different economic models. Ki there is no one clear way to say ki, acha, this one, like all of them do transaction fees or something like that. Everyone has a different way of looking at how they make money and things like that. But there are two major classifications of let's say migrating something from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. So there are two kinds of innovations for this. One is something which has easy conversion, and that has something which has direct cost benefit. I'll get into that. And the other is hard conversion, which is no cost benefit. So what are these examples of an easy conversion, and what is an example of a hard conversion? So when I think about it, the best example of an easy conversion is Western Union. Western Union, suna hai? It's a money transfer company which allows you to send, let's say, US dollars to India. And what they do is they take a certain cut, like they take 5, 10, sometimes even 15% of your money when you transfer that money from USD to INR. And like you deposit into a bank account, udhar se you transfer it via like just like Google Pay, and it gets credited into an Indian account. And I think right now Google Pay is also partnering with Western Union to like enable this for like Singapore, India, and US or something like that. Now, why is that an easy conversion from Web 2.0 to 3.0? Like Western Union is 2.0 and Web 3.0 is like Ethereum or whatever. Why is this a direct cost benefit? Because Western Union sometimes takes up to 15%. तुम समझ लो ना, अगर तुम्हें $100 ट्रांसफर करने हैं, imagine paying $15. That's almost 1,000 rupees out of the total 7,000 rupees you are sending to India. That's an insanely high amount of money which you're leaving on the table just to transfer money from one country to another. Whereas if you're transferring from Ethereum, like for example, if you have an account in US and you're just sending money over like a normal transaction, the amount of money which you are saving, even though the gas fees are this high right now, is insanely high. So for that reason, all of these things like Western Union and stuff, these kind of finance related things, they are very easy to convert from Web 2.0 to 3.0. So what are the hard conversions? The hard conversions are all of the ones where there is no direct cost benefit involved. Pichli slide dekhi, all of these browsers, all of these storage things, they don't have a direct cost benefit involvement where you can just be like, acha, theek hai, if I convert this from 2.0 to 3.0, I'm saving X rupees per year or X rupees per transaction, something like that. A good example of this again is what we were doing in campus, BITS Pilani mein. We were trying to create a system where all of our transcripts are on the blockchain. So usse kya hoga? We would have one node, like one sort of validator node in the Pilani campus, the Goa campus, and the Hyderabad campus. And jo bhi passing out ki batch hai, they would get a sort of blockchain verified copy of it online, and you would get your physical paper also. So then when somebody would want to verify ki, acha, is this paper fraudulent or not, that person could check on like a public facing website ki, acha, this person has graduated from, let's say, 2017 or whatever. Is this guy legitimately from here, and are the grades matching? So wo check ho sakta tha. The only problem is koi cost benefit nahi hai yahan pe. There is literally no cost benefit to the current system, like to implement the system over the current system we have. Current system kya hai? Just give a piece of paper and you're done with it. That's the transaction. Now, if you want to keep 3 nodes up and running, you want to do that maintenance, you want to ensure that there isn't a 51% attack, because at the end of the day, you don't want all of this on a public ledger. You want this private. So 3 ही computers चल रहे हैं, they can easily be 51% attacked. Why would you even go through all of that hassle to create this in the first place? That's why there was no cost benefit to that thing. And we did that POC वगैरह बनाया, like proof of concept बनाया, but eventually that didn't pan out. And right now we are back to the normal paper thing. Maybe this might be something in the future, but right now it is a hard conversion. So as I said, the easiest conversions are the one in the financial space. And that's why DeFi is taking such a huge leap forward. So DeFi just stands for decentralized finance, and that is the advanced use of smart contracts. पहले हमने देखा था the simplest uses of smart contracts, the ones where there are just normal transactions. I'm paying a person this, or there was a registry, and that registry could be something like a domain name server, or a thing where I register that I own this house. And when I sell that house to somebody, it's a normal transaction where I just sell the ownership and then I just get money for that. Those were the simplest use cases. The DeFi is a very advanced use case of smart contracts, and they look at very niche objects. So let's look into that in a more deep way. So what is the problem here? Most of the traditional finance is close to regular users. What does that mean? Close to regular users means that can you please repeat? अच्छा तेरा इंटरनेट गया मेरा अच्छा ठीक है फाइन हार्ड कन्वर्जन essentially means कि there's no cost benefit, so for that reason it's harder to convert a web 2.0 to web 3.0 because like there's no financial incentive to do it. So yeah, decentralized finance, most traditional finance is closed. What does closed mean? It means कि there are a lot of these regulations in place before you can do all of these transactions. For example, अगर तुम्हें इंडिया में futures trading करना होगा तो you need to be something called an accredited investor. I'm not sure exactly क्या होता है accredited investor or some kind of a thing, but essentially you have to show कि to the SEC कि you have a certain amount of money in the bank. You know what you're doing. Essentially, that's what it says. You know what you're doing. So for that reason, a lot of people don't even cross this threshold. That's why traditional finance is close to the regular users. Secondly, most derivatives and other assets are built on top of cryptocurrencies in centralized platforms. So as we saw, कि ये जो सारे derivatives or other assets है, they're all in centralized ways, like Coinbase, Binance. They're all centralized platforms. And what are the pitfalls this causes? So the first one is financial institutions can manipulate markets. We saw this perfect example in GameStop. Like what these people tried to do is they tried to manipulate the market. Now, I'm not saying Reddit is a financial institution. I'm saying कि markets can be manipulated by financial institutions to get their own good. I think वो recession जो हुआ था 2008-9 में, that is also a good example of this, where banks gave out all of these bad credit loans, and for that reason there was all of those credit default swaps and वो सब problem हुआ था. For that reason the whole market completely went down, and we had a recession essentially. The US had a recession, which happened to us also. So financial institutions have the monetary power and the political will and power to actually manipulate markets, and retail users are priced out. This is similar to this point here, where retail users don't have the money to participate in these kind of transactions because उनको पता ही नहीं क्या हो रहा है. If there is somebody who's buying $1 million, like a $2 million credit default swap or something like that, there is no way somebody like me or you can go out and say, अच्छा ठीक है, I have $2 million, I'm going to put it in this. Like उस level का leverage पे ही हम खेलते नहीं है. And finally, people are distrustful of big banks. This is after the 2008-9 financial crisis, and udhar se all of this has started, where people are just distrustful of this. So what happened is there were different options which are created to do all of these things on decentralized options. So this is something called Compound. This is an app called Compound. Compound is a decentralized lending and borrowing service, essentially a bank, but completely decentralized. If I have some extra Ethereum lying around, I can give it to Compound and say कि अच्छा ठीक है तुम ले लो. मतलब it's like me depositing it there like a bank. They will pay me some annual like APY, मतलब some percent per year interest, and then they will lend it to someone, and then वो lending borrowing वो देख लेंगे. This is simply like you can look at this as the HDFC equivalent of a decentralized system. This is called Uniswap. Uniswap is like your forex. अगर समझो I want to trade in currencies in the sense that I want to buy euros because I feel कि euros की price अब कम होने वाली है, मतलब थोड़े दिन में बढ़ जाएगी और अभी कम है. Then what I would do is I would swap my INR for euros, and then I'll buy that, wait for it to go up, and then I will swap it back into INR, thus making a profit. This is the same thing which Uniswap is doing, but for cryptocurrencies. I can swap some Ethereum. Swap is just a technical term. I can buy let's say some amount of ETH by selling Bitcoin. And then I can, when ETH goes up again, I'll go back into Bitcoin. And hopefully if the price is similar, then I will have made some money. ऐसे चीजें you can do with Uniswap. This is just one of the more rudimentary use cases. There are much more. I don't know how to pronounce this, but this is for options trading. There are two kinds of options. There is a call option, there's a put option. This is very technical, but call options are essentially saying you are betting ki market upar jayega, and put options are saying ki you are betting ki the market will go down. And when you say ki you are betting, it means ki you have made a sort of bet in such a way कि अगर ऊपर जाएगा तो तुम्हें बहुत प्रॉफिट मिलेगा, बट नीचे गया तो उतना ही लॉस होगा. तो this is how options trading works. I won't dive deep into this. Perhaps I'll send you guys a video, but options trading is essentially using leverage to try to predict the market and see like if you can make a lot of profit. This is Yearn. So Yearn Finance क्या करता है? Yield farming करता है. Yield farming पे मैं एक वीडियो भेज दूंगा. But what yield farming essentially does is, if you have, let's say, some money lying around, you have some ETH lying around, then what yield farming does is it sort of uses bots. Bots exactly नहीं use करता, but it uses algorithms to try to get as much profit as you possibly can by using all of these options. थोड़ा ये यूज करेगा, थोड़ा ये यूज करेगा, थोड़ा ये यूज करेगा, ऐसे कर करके it will try to optimize for your risk tolerance and things like that. So you can consider this sort of like mutual funds. Again, ये बहुत weird example है, but Yearn Finance does yield farming. उतना ही याद रखना. I will send you guys a video about what yield farming is to explain it properly. Yield farming explain करते करते 1 घंटा जाएगा. So that is the basis of decentralized finance. So what is the Ethereum solution of all of this? Build out decentralized applications using smart contracts. As simple as that. That is the Ethereum way of doing everything. Make a decentralized app, something like this, or this, and let users use that instead of using like a centralized authority, and keep all of these high quality, well-tested smart contracts in the backend to handle all of this logic. And one more thing which really has to be taken care of is game theory and economics. And that's why these two are very important in this particular field. You really need to understand how somebody can game the system. For example, agar tumne ek smart contract likha, if you are, let's say, creating a particular protocol or something, you first have to create the protocol, and then you have to look at it from the eyes of a hacker and see ki yaar kaun yahan pe ye tod sakta hai. And trying to find these little intricacies is what has to be done. And that is sort of like game theory. So using game theory and economics, you have to find a way to cut out trust and ensure that somebody can't hack into it. Finally, rely on Ethereum blockchain to verify the transactions. So what your duty as a person who is creating a sort of decentralized application is, you will create a good smart contract which will handle all of this game theory and economics. You rely on the Ethereum blockchain to handle the trust part. तो तुम बोलते हो कि यार transaction verification I will let the Ethereum blockchain do, but game theory and economics is something I will handle. And then what are the drawbacks? So there are some major drawbacks. One thing is it's capital inefficient. What does capital inefficient mean? It means कि कभी-कभी if you are doing something which, so there is a chance कि if there is a transaction which you wanted to do, it would be less costly to do it if you did it through a centralized exchange. For example, अगर तुमने कभी Binance पे कोई coin swap किया होगा, like if you have sold, let's say, Ethereum and you've bought Bitcoin, then what happens is there is a swapping fee, some 0.05% or whatever. That is much, much lower than if you were to use Uniswap, because what Uniswap is doing, it is properly putting your transaction on both of these chains and like making the actual transaction for you. Whereas हम लोगों ने centralized versus decentralized में बात किया था कि what these centralized exchanges do is they optimize to ensure कि अच्छा ठीक है, there's somebody who's actually selling and somebody who's actually buying, so I'll just match those two orders. So for that reason, the costs and the fees associated with using a decentralized exchange or decentralized finance का ये सब that will be capital inefficient, or that will cost more than something which you would do on a centralized thing. Centralized मतलब centralized exchange. Then the second thing is risk of front running. Front running क्या होता है? It's a sort of market manipulation. So essentially what that does is you see that somebody is buying Ethereum for $10, let's say, and that person has put in a big order. Let's say 100 Ethereum buy करना है उसको. So it's a big order. What you will do is you will see that transaction has gotten into the mempool. मतलब बड़ी सी transaction है वो mempool में पहुंच चुकी है. What you will do is you will put in an order for buying all of those at 100 and selling all of those at 101. Okay, I'll try to say that again. You are going to put an order of buying those 100 Ethereum at $10, but you are going to put another sell order immediately after that of all of those 100 at $11. तो तुम्हारा essentially $100 का profit हो जाएगा if that person buys it. Now the only way you can front run, like you might ask कि अच्छा ठीक है, but why will my transaction get executed before his? That's because तुम उसमें बहुत ज्यादा गैस मतलब ट्रांजैक्शन के फीस डाल दोगे, तो तुम गैस फीस बहुत डाल दोगे, and because miners are incentivized to pick up the transaction which is the highest gas fees, they will pick up yours first. So what you are doing is you are artificially increasing the price of all of the Ethereum in the market. Now this person will not be able to buy it at that price because कोई seller ही नहीं होगा at that price. But there is a seller, you, who is selling it at 11. So what he will feel is, अच्छा यार, instead of like if he is in for the long game, कि अच्छा he is expecting the $10 to go to $20, he'll be like, अच्छा यार, I'll buy this at 11, and then he'll end up buying it from you, and that is called front running. It's a very technical thing. मैंने बहुत simplify करने की कोशिश की है, but front running is a form of market manipulation, and it is very possible in decentralized finance. Because at the end of the day, तुम transaction के fees बढ़ा के ये ऊपर डाल सकते हो, तुम्हारा पहले transaction हो गया, तो you can artificially change the prices in a market. But that is provided तुम्हारे पास बहुत पैसा होगा to actually like make all of these manipulations. Then the third thing is composability. Composability क्या होता है? If I were to create a new app, let's say Atharva's app, whatever, okay, I can use this smart contract to do some function. I can use this smart contract to do some function. I can use Uniswap smart contract to do some function. So what I'm doing is I am creating a smart contract which is composed of functions from this, and from this. So that is called composability. What happens is I can, so when I put this out, then I am calling all of these functions, right? So because of that, what happens is these, like my contract has now created these dependencies. ये तीन अब dependencies हो गए मेरे. The problem now is if this gets hacked, then my thing automatically has this vulnerability. Or if this thing ever goes down, or if this thing ever puts out like a big update, then I have to change mine accordingly. Otherwise, मेरा बंद ही हो जाएगा service. So the more dependencies I create based on the composability I have made, the more risk I have of some like problem happening. That is why there is always a risk from composability of smart contracts. Yeah, I think we will now take questions. Yeah, okay. We will now take questions. Sridhar asks, but the gas fees and transaction fees are very high. So how does it compete with something like Western Union? अरे नहीं, so the thing is, Western Union के जो gas fees है, के जो transaction fees है, at this point in time, they are more than how much it will take for you to transfer money from Ethereum from one account to another. So international fees के लिए it's like that. Mohit asks, sometimes transactions in Pancake are rejected because of liquidity. अच्छा हाँ, liquidity ना. I've also heard that the developer is locked in his liquidity. अच्छा okay, so liquidity क्या होता है? So if there is, like मैंने जैसे compound, I think compound is a better example to explain liquidity. तो compound क्या करता है? I can say कि अच्छा I am going to deposit some amount of money into compound. I will let compound manage it, and compound के essentially अभी उसके पास क्या आया? उसके पास बहुत सारा पैसा आ गया, मतलब पैसा in terms of Ethereum, and now compound can do whatever it wants with it. Compound is just a bank, समझ लो. So that is called getting liquidity. And what I have done as a developer is I have injected some liquidity into this. Now अगर मैं FD करता हूँ इधर, like there is a some equivalent of FD समझ लो, तो FD के लिए I lock in this money for some amount of period for which they promise some percentage yield after those 5 years. That is what the locking in thing means. So when somebody says that they've locked in the liquidity for the next 5 years, that means they've created like a fixed deposit. Are rejected because of liquidity. So essentially that also answers your first question. कि अगर there is a swapping which I want to do, समझ में मेरे को 100 Ethereum लेने हैं, and I want to sell like whatever amount of equivalent Bitcoin for it. What happens is sometimes there aren't 100 Ethereum available in that pool right now. मतलब 100 मतलब compound के पास अभी 100 ETH पड़े ही नहीं है, तो for that reason कभी-कभी reject हो जाता है. And that is what this means. And that is also because Pancake Swap is a smaller swap than Uniswap. तो उसके पास मतलब कम लोग आते हैं. लाइक यूनिस्वैप इज मोर बैटल टेस्टेड, लोग ज्यादा यूज करते हैं, तो वो थोड़ा हो जाता है. I think that answers your question. Divyanshu asks, can you explain in brief about option again? OPY and option. Options trading है यार, मतलब call options and put options. Again, I won't explain call options and put options in depth. It's a type of way to use leverage to basically earn more money. Like if you feel that the market is going to go up, and if you put in your own $100 and it goes up to 110, you made $10. But if you use leverage, and let's say your leverage factor is 10, okay, then what you're essentially doing is you're borrowing $900, you're putting in your $100, तेरे पास अभी $1,000 आ गए जो तूने मार्केट में डाल दिया. Now if the market goes up to 1,100, 110, you basically made $100 instead of your $10 because you put in 10 times leverage. But at the same time अगर 10 से नीचे जाता है तो फिर तेरा लॉस भी उतना ही मैग्नीफाई हो जाएगा. तो फॉर दैट रीजन ऑप्शंस ट्रेडिंग इज लाइक अ गैम्बल, मतलब यू आर टेकिंग हाई रिस्क बट यू माइट गेट अ हाई रिटर्न. हाँ, ऑप्शन इज अ डैप. इट्स जस्ट दैट मतलब it is a DApp. It's just it enables options trading on the Ethereum chain. I see. Sagar asks, but all of these are basically built around using crypto as a medium for exchange and not fiat money. Yeah, correct. They are all built assuming कि बस crypto ही चल रहा है लाइफ में. मतलब they don't even consider like fiat. They expect you to have crypto somewhere or the other. So yeah, cool. I'll move on. Prediction markets. This is another form of decentralized finance, and I'll explain why it's finance at the very end. But prediction markets क्या होता है? Essentially, you're drawing wisdom of the crowd. What does that mean? अगर समझो ये election हो रहा है, you put out a question कि अच्छा bet लगाओ, who will win the election, BJP और INC? तो अभी क्या करते हैं ये जो न्यूज चैनल्स होते हैं, what they do is they go out to all of these places. Like they might go to, let's say, Jharkhand, they might go to Maharashtra, and then they ask people to कि who have you voted for, who do you think will win, ये सब questions पूछते हैं, उसके basis पे exit polls बनाते हैं, right? What this does is this says कि अच्छा instead of that, the people who are going to vote for it, you put your money where your mouth is, and instead of just saying कि अच्छा ठीक है I voted for X, I voted for Y, which can actually be false. Like I might say कि I voted for INC but I actually voted for BJP. What you essentially do is you put a bet. तुम पैसे लगाते हो, तुम क्या कह रहे हो उस पे. Like you might say कि BJP will win, and then you put one ETH as a bet. And what happens is there's like a pot, like a pool of all of the money which has been collected. Now at the end of it, we will find out who the result is, like who has won the result. So like when this guy wins, all the guys who voted for him on this particular prediction market, वो क्या होगा, ये जो पूरा pot है that gets equally distributed to them in the proportion of the share they had put in the first place. मतलब अगर 10 लोग थे, उसमें से एक बंदे ने 5 डाले और एक बंदे ने 2 डाले, एक बंदे ने 3 डाले, एंड इवेंचुअली पॉट ऐसे 20 का बन गया, मतलब जो हारने वाली साइड है उसने भी 10-10 डाल दिया, देन यू विल गेट इट इन प्रोपोर्शन. सो दैट इज व्हाट इट मींस. सो दे आर रिप्लेस्ड विद शेयर्स ऑफ द आउटकम. एंड ओरेकल्स रिपोर्ट द आउटकम. ओरेकल क्या होता है? एन ओरेकल इज, this is a term which comes from I think the Spartan times or Roman times. Essentially it's somebody who always says the truth, मतलब who can look into the future and say the truth, वैसे टाइप का कुछ. So essentially what an oracle does is it's a program which looks at external data and gives the blockchain a trusted like response. For example, अगर मुझे weather देखना है बाहर का, and मैं blockchain पे एक app बना रहा हूँ and I want to see the weather outside. So what I would do is I will use an oracle, which is basically like calling an API, but it's a trusted API. तो oracle को call करने की भी थोड़ी फीस जाती है, but oracles are trusted, whereas any random API can get hacked. So for that reason, oracles report the outcome. Like, and because they are trusted, when an oracle, which is also a program, reports कि अच्छा ठीक है BJP has won, then that money will, मतलब that will trigger the smart contract, and then it will distribute the money accordingly to the people who voted during that. So that is how prediction markets work. And this is a big deal. मतलब अभी तो बहुत prediction markets का हो रहा है, and people are really putting a lot of money into this. So what is the aim? It's a service that never crashes, and it's a service that is completely transparent. Why do we need this, and why do we need this? Because agar there is somebody who, like for example, if there are 80% of people who voted for team A to win, and there are the remaining 20% who voted for team B to win, but agar team B जीत जाती है, तो then these 80% should not be able to come together and crash the system because यार उनके पैसे अटक गए. That is why it should be a system that never crashes. And it should be completely transparent because at the end of the day, you should know where your money, like how your money is going to come back. At the end of the day, it's a money ka khel hai. So this should be as transparent as possible. Again, these are three very common prediction markets. Augur is very well known. I think it was the first one and it's the biggest one right now. Polka markets is something which is being looked at right now as the Augur killer because it's like having some really good features and stuff. And Gnosis is also something similar. So these are just three prediction markets. And what are the benefits of this? So there are no restrictions on market types. This has its good things and its bad things. No restriction on market types का मतलब क्या होता है कि there can be a prediction market for elections, there can be a prediction market for sports, there can be a prediction market for horse betting, but that also has its evil attributes. कि there can be a prediction market for terrorist attacks, there can be a prediction market for assassinations, in the sense that you can have a prediction market कि अच्छा ठीक है, this president will be alive or not by the end of this year or whatever. इसके भी prediction markets बन सकते हैं and I think बन भी रहे हैं. Like there were some things in the news कि ऐसे type का होता है. So this is the positive and negative of having no restrictions on market types. The second thing is shared liquidity. We spoke about liquidity. Shared liquidity मतलब क्या, बहुत सारे लोग डाल रहे हैं and you're pooling it all together, creating a shared liquidity pool. And finally, censorship resistance. This ties into never crashes and is completely transparent because जब ये दो होते हैं चीजें, तब you can have censorship resistant prediction markets. मतलब somebody can't stop it. But the problem with this also is because it has no restrictions and because any market type is allowed, you can't censor something like these evil sort of things happening. So yeah, let's have some questions now. Using leverage without time decay is futures trading and using leverage with time decays of, oh okay, हाँ my bad हाँ मतलब futures में time का ये होता है, मतलब time का नहीं होता है, options में होता है, my bad. Any questions on prediction markets? अच्छा, cool, I'll move on.
Athar, can we say that these these prediction markets are kind of decentralized apps for like MPL or like something like that? MPL or Dream 11, if you have heard of
हाँ, Mobile Premier League. Oh हाँ, okay. हाँ, makes sense. हाँ, it can be like that. You can consider it like that, definitely. मतलब that's actually a really good idea. मतलब if somebody can make a equivalent Dream 11 on blockchain, that will also be really cool. मतलब हाँ, मतलब that can definitely be a good business idea. Startup बना ले. But yeah,
सोच ही रहा था.
But yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And finally, this is one thing I forgot to talk about: automated and trustless, as all blockchains and all applications made on blockchains are. Cool, then I'll move on. ICOs क्या होता है? ICOs are initial coin offerings. This is something which is really big in the DeFi space, and it was really big like 2-3 years ago. ICOs हो रहे थे. You guys might have seen Silicon Valley. There was an ICO which those guys did. Essentially, what that means is it's a way for people to invest Ether in startups of companies which are being built on top of Ethereum. Okay, so that's equivalent to saying you would put US dollars into a startup or something like that. So instead of using fiat currency and instead of having to jump through all of these hurdles of legalities and things like that, what these ICOs do is, for a very minimal fee, you can do an ICO on a decentralized exchange as opposed to doing an IPO on a stock exchange. So ICOs are a very viable option financially क्योंकि उससे बहुत मतलब पैसे बच जाते हैं. You can reach a wider demographic, things like that. Whereas IPOs are more like legalized, regulated, all of those things. So for that reason, ICOs are gaining a lot of popularity. There is one more thing called SPACs which are happening, SPAC. That is not decentralized, but that is a way of avoiding doing an IPO but still reaping the rewards of going public. ये भी देख लेना. It's not related to blockchain, but it's something really cool which is happening in the world right now. So yeah, ये देख लेना. So it's a permissionless, effortless way to invest in a good company. You find a company you think it's really good. What you can do is you can find a way to invest in all of these things without having to like even show your KYC. For example, मेरा अगर Ethereum account है, I can just invest whatever money I want in an ICO if I think it's going to go up. I don't even have to do a KYC with whichever government. अगर समझो US का है and ये IPO हो रहा है or something like that, I don't have to do US के साथ SEC के साथ कुछ. I can just invest decentralized. So that is the great part about ICOs, and that is what is making VCs very worried, because gone are the days when you have to rely on a venture capital fund to get money to do something you want. Now you can just do an ICO, get a lot of money, and then do your thing. So VCs are very worried because of this. So these are just examples. Bancor नाम की एक चीज थी, Tezos, Filecoin. These are all really big things now. ICO इतना हुआ, and now these are all booming. So I don't remember ये dates कब थे, but these are all doing really well for themselves in the current market. So yeah. This is something which I found an image key. These are some things which you need to know about ICOs. They can be securities offerings. Essentially, what this means is you are buying shares of it's like equivalent to buying shares of a company. You're buying stock of a coin, something like that. You're buying stake. They may need to be registered. This is based on the country's regulation. Like there are some जहाँ पे US में register करना पड़ता है. There are some where you don't have to. ये legislative laws different है हर country में. But there are some which may need to be registered, some which don't. Then tokens sold in ICO can be called many things. Essentially, what this line is saying is, if Snoop Dogg comes out with something, then he might call it Snoop Dogg coin, or he might call it like weed coin, whatever. They don't essentially have to be called anything specific. As in, what he's saying is, this does not have to be called something ending with coin or something like that. It can be called anything. It can be advertised as anything. And for that reason, you have to be very wary of what you're investing in. That is what this point is trying to drive home. कि कुछ भी बोला जा सकता है, and for that reason, you have to be very wary of what you are going to put your money in. And that is also what the second thing says, कि it may pose substantial risks. Your money can go to zero also. And your money can go like 10x, 20x also, 50x, 100x, whatever. But you have to be very wary of what is happening here. And the last thing is, ask big questions before investing. This is again a part of due diligence. Every single amount of money you invest, every rupee you invest, you have to do your due diligence. You have to do research before you invest. So that is one thing you have to keep in mind. But for ICOs to be successful, cryptos need to be widely accepted. Agreed. ICOs are made on the assumption that 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, Ethereum is still going to hold value. So yeah, as you were saying, crypto needs to be widely accepted. Completely agreed. So yeah, moving on. Voting. This is one thing which a lot of people does ICO. Yeah, ICOs are listed somewhere. There are all of these decentralized sort of marketplaces. There's something called Balancer. Balancer देख लेना. Balancer पे बहुत सारे ICOs list होता है. तो वो check कर लेना. Voting. So you guys might have seen, I think Dhruv Rathi came out with a video about blockchain voting. So essentially he spoke about very basic stuff. He didn't get into like the nitty-gritties, but I'll just give you an example of what is happening in this world. So there's a company called Votes. It's a Boston startup, and they are doing this blockchain pe voting. So essentially what you're doing is, you have a mobile, and mobile से ही तुम voting करते हो. You don't need a desktop. You don't need like verification, anything like that. This is really good because they are trying to get this out to as many people as possible. In the sense that even in a country like India, जहाँ पे mobile phone proliferation बहुत है, but computers ही नहीं है. For that kind of a country, this kind of a mobile voting application is much better than going to a poll booth or something like that. So there are two private permission blockchains using Hyperledger. This is just into the technicalities. Hyperledger is just another system of creating like all of these like sort of like smart contracts on. They have their own thing. So जैसे Ethereum पे smart contract होता है, वैसे Hyperledger पे there's something called chain code. Same thing, just different terminology. So the first thing is an identity chain, as the second is the voting chain. तो votes वालों ने क्या किया है? There are two parallel blockchains going on. Okay, this is blockchain A. Okay, let's call it blockchain I for identity, and this blockchain V for voting. So what happens is, ये जो identity chain है, उस पे तुम्हारा नाम आने के लिए, like to sort of add your name onto it. Name मतलब your digital like identification onto it. You have to go through an actual KYC. मतलब यहाँ पे there is going to be a thing where somebody is actually going to come to your house, probably see कि अच्छा ठीक है, this person exists, this person is like has the voting ID, whatever registration वगैरह वो सब हो चुका है, and then it's added to the identity chain. Okay. Now when voting starts, this identity chain is just referenced to see कि अच्छा ठीक है, the person who is voting is this person on this identity chain. If he is, then he's allowed to vote, he or she. If not, he's not allowed. It's as simple as that. And voting is simply a transaction where you have balance of one vote, and you sort of transact that one vote, and you like send it to like the account of whoever person is like in your area who's voting. So it's as simple as that. The voting chain is जहाँ पे transactions होते हैं, and identity chain is जहाँ पे बस एक list बन जाती है of all the people who are allowed to vote. So I'll take questions about this. But one thing, how's the failure of hacking in voting through blockchain? Yeah, again, at the end of the day, the main and the sort of only way where it can be hacked is a 51% attack. There can be governments which want to see the Indian voting like thing fail. Like, you know, India has like one of the largest, like it's called the largest democracy for a reason. So there are a lot of like it becomes a big target. And for that reason, there might be countries which might pool together enough computing power to be able to overwhelm the system. So that is the issues जैसे आ सकते हैं कि hacking the system is how that can happen. The other hack which can be done is जो भी ये बंदा system लिखेगा, अगर उसने गलती से कोई vulnerability लिखी है, for example, if that person has not taken care to ensure कि the only person who is added to an identity chain is verified वगैरह वगैरह, then there might be somebody who is able to add like various fake identities here, and when voting starts, they'll just have to vote because the voting chain is sort of like a thing जहाँ पे it's just checking from the identity chain. So the identity chain is very important, and उस पे जो भी smart contract लिखा जाएगा वो बहुत अच्छे से लिखा जाना चाहिए. So two major ways it can be hacked. One is if somebody finds like a penetration here, if somebody is able to find an exploit here. And the second thing is simple 51% attack. Cool. So yeah, I'll move ahead. Climate change. Now, yeah, it was conducted in some African country. I forgot. It was also conducted in Estonia, actually. Estonia नाम की एक Eastern European country. And they conducted it on a blockchain many years ago, actually. You should check out Estonia. Estonia is doing very good stuff in the field of technology in general, not just in terms of blockchain or whatever, but like in general, they're doing really cool stuff. तो हाँ, मतलब एस्टोनिया का अगर तुम्हें citizenship मिल जाती है, I mean, consider it. They can directly use proof of authority for that. Yeah, so what if the person is smart who is attacking and is able to create a node on the network which is authoritative? What if somebody is able to gain authority? Like if I'm sitting here and election कोई चल रहा है, let's say China में, and I'm able to create a node which is on that network, which is authoritative, then that network is gone. Because proof of authority में there is no 51% attack. If there's even one person who is authoritative, who is signing transactions, everybody accepts them. So that's an issue. But yeah, I mean, it's good that you know proof of authority and stuff. That's pretty cool. So yeah, let's move on to climate change. As we know, Bitcoin and other proof of work coins have a huge climate issue. I think किसी ने आज वीडियो डाली थी कि अच्छा how is this electricity thing sorted कि अच्छा proof of stake में इतना electricity जाता नहीं है but अभी proof of work में जाता है. So I think Shrey had pointed out कि because all of the computers are mining, which is correct. I'll just add on to that. याद है मैंने बोला था Ethereum is redundantly parallel. That's because it's proof of work. The day Ethereum moves to proof of stake, it's not redundantly parallel anymore. So just wanted to point that out. And for that reason, abhi jo bhi Bitcoin and all of those things, they're creating a lot of climate nuisance. बहुत greenhouse gases emit होते हैं because of all of this mining. And for that reason, there's a race to combat climate change. This here is a building in New York, and it's called the climate clock. What it essentially does is it has a number which says कि अच्छा ठीक है, इतने साल में अगर हमने change नहीं किया कुछ, then we will reach a point where global warming is irreversible. So abhi it says 7 years, but like you never know, like it might jump because this is not a linear scale. Sometimes they might say कि अच्छा ठीक है, some bad thing has happened, like a volcano erupts or something, suddenly it goes from 7 years to 6 years. So these things happen, and this is something to take care of because yeah, this is one thing which really scares me. Climate change is something which really scares me. So yeah, there is a conference, there's a group of people which are coming together to work on this, find innovative solutions to all of these things. It's called the Energy Blockchain Consortium, and they are like they are helping blockchains which are on proof of work transition to proof of stake. They're trying to make proof of stake and all of these things more easily acceptable, things like that. वो सब कर रहे हैं. They are trying to find solutions by which all of these chains can move to something which is more sustainable. So yeah, energy innovations, we spoke about microgrids. I'll still bring it up. Microgrid kya hota hai? I have a house A, I have a house C, and there's a house B in between. I have a solar panel, like A has a solar panel, C needs electricity, and there's a electricity line connecting A, B, and C. What you can do is this excess electricity can be sent into the grid, can flow through B, go to C. C can pay for that electricity. And based on the amount of electricity this guy pushed to the grid, he might get some coins which he can use to pay for his next electricity bill. So that is what a microgrid is. So you can essentially set up like distributed energy generation, and that can function independently. This is also one more thing ki agar you have enough of these solar panels on enough houses in a particular locality, then अगर कोई natural disaster हो जाता है, like we saw in Texas थोड़े दिन पहले, there was snow and all of those things. For that reason the whole electricity grid completely shut down. But Texas is a very sunny state, so if you have a lot of solar panels, then you can essentially get through that, and जो भी तुम excess electricity produce करोगे, you can sell it to other houses around you, and based on that everybody can like live comfortably until the electricity from the main line comes back home. So yeah, net metering, residents can sell energy back, and then that way they can earn money. Other thing is Switch. So Switch is a company that is doing the same thing but for carbon footprints. So carbon footprint kya hota hai? If I am producing, let's say 1 metric ton of carbon, then if I am able to, let's say if I am an industry which is allowed to create 2 metric tons of carbon, but मैंने 1 metric ton बनाया, तो वो जो difference है, that difference in my carbon footprint can be tokenized, and then I can sell it to some other company which needs to pollute more. So by that way, I am able to use, like I'm able to capitalize on my energy savings. On my carbon footprint savings. I'll make that a bit clear again. There's a industry which is A and industry B. Both of them have a limit of polluting 2 metric tons of carbon dioxide every year. Now A only puts out 1 metric ton of emission, and B puts out 3. So what A can do is ये जो 2-1 का एक carbon footprint का एक मतलब carbon credit है, that can be sold to B for some money, and that way A profits, because at the end of the day A has put in some extra money to pollute less ना, मतलब he has probably bought some better facilities or whatever to ensure कि ये होता नहीं है, whereas B hasn't done that, so B should pay for it, and that is how B pays. Okay, I'll take questions. Can they directly use proof of authority for that? Okay, हाँ, redundantly parallel. Last class में बोला था, I think तेरे last class में होगा. Redundantly parallel, essentially what that means is, अगर 10 nodes है, 10 miners है, तो अगर कोई smart contract पे कोई function चलता है, तो then all 10 of them are like calling that function as fast as possible, and the person who calls it fastest is going to mine that block and reap the rewards. But then बाकी जो 9 है जिन लोगों ने वो function call किया and who didn't like call it the fastest, like who weren't able to execute it the fastest, their execution is basically lost. So it is redundantly parallel because ये जो सारे 9 बाकी के हैं जिन लोगों ने जीता नहीं, they are redundantly calling the function और उनका कोई फायदा नहीं है, but it's all parallel processing, like the same function is being called 10 times. So that's what redundantly parallel means. Last class के slides देख लेना. I don't know if you were in the class, but like देख लेना. But Switch's idea is not bringing the carbon emission down. No, so Switch is not saying कि we are going to bring down the carbon emission. What it is only saying is अगर तुमने कम emit किया, तो फिर you should be able to gain some advantage from that thing which you're doing because you're saving nature essentially. And they are saying कि somebody who is polluting more should be penalized. So how do you create an economy जहाँ पे somebody is able to buy and sell that? So you use carbon credits and you're able to sell that. So that is Switch's idea. It's not bringing carbon emission down, it's selling it. So environmental strides. Carbon credits can be represented as tokens to be traded. यही अपन ने बात की. A carbon credit is prevention of 1 metric ton of CO2 released into the atmosphere. So that is essentially what we said ki there is an industry which is allowed to do 2, but then they do 1. So then they have saved 1 metric ton and they have 1 carbon credit. And then they can sell that carbon credit to somebody else to make that thing. Veridium is a bit different. Veridium is actually doing this on a corporate scale. तो Veridium क्या करता है? जो भी carbon credits बचते हैं ना, these companies can donate that to Veridium, and then Veridium plants trees in the rainforest. So Veridium is sort of like that. It is not a marketplace for carbon credits. It allows companies to save on carbon credits and then like sort of plant trees and do like stuff for that. Recycle to coin. This rewards recyclers. तो essentially वही है same कि यार तुम recycle करोगे तो उसके equivalent तुम्हें कोई cryptocurrency मिलेगा and that you should be able to sell and make money from it or whatever. So these are ways to incentivize people to do good for the government. Sorry, government for the environment. My bad. Any questions still here before we move on to non-fungible tokens? Cool. I'll move ahead. आज का क्लास शायद एक्सटेंड होने वाला है because I'm just halfway through the slideshow and we have just 15 minutes left. तो थोड़ा extend होने वाला है. So there are two major kinds of assets. There's something which is fungible, मतलब money, oil, copper, tobacco. याद है we had spoken about what is an ideal cryptocurrency, what is an ideal currency. वो जो 6 चीज बोले थे. There's durability, there is like all of those things. I'll have to look at the slides to remember all 6, but there are 6 qualities which every quality currency should have. So that is fungible, and then there is non-fungible. Non-fungible क्या होता है? These are all of these things: art, houses, cars, graduation diplomas, and their respective ownership deeds. Essentially, what that means is, if I have a graduation diploma and somebody else has a graduation diploma, but that person is graduating from, let's say, Harvard, and I'm graduating from BITS Pilani, they are not the same. Essentially, if I take his Harvard ka diploma and if he takes my BITS Pilani ka diploma, that means there's an exchange of value. Similarly for houses, if I'm living in a flat and there's somebody who's living in a bungalow, like must see facing bungalow koi, then if I give him the keys to my bungalow and he gives me the keys to my bungalow, then there is an exchange of value which has happened. I have gained something, he has lost something in terms of financial value. That is the meaning of non-fungibility. Fungibility means trade किया same value का तो कुछ like value का exchange नहीं होता. Whereas non-fungible में वो होता है. So why is it a big deal in the first place? So blockchains originally gave us the ability to create a scarce currency. Yeah, the scarce, durable, etc. So inherently fungible because of its initial use cases. All of these things are inherently fungible. You can inherently just give 1 ETH for 1 more ETH and like not lose any money and things like that. But it does not represent uniqueness well. My like 1 ETH for me is not unique. I cannot say कि ये मेरा 1 ETH है and it's different from your 1 ETH. They're all the same. So we need to create the ability to create unique digital assets, because assets, like most assets by definition, are unique. Your house is unique. All of these things. I won't say a car is an asset, car is a liability, but cars are like unique to you. Like unke unique VIN hota hai, vehicle identification number, वगैरह वगैरह. All of these are unique, and there has to be a way to represent all of them on some blockchain network. And for that reason, we created non-fungible tokens, or NFTs. So NFTs are a big deal for this reason, because for the first time in history, you are able to maintain and you're able to prove digital asset ownership without a centralized entity. This is huge, because पहले अगर तुम्हारे पास कोई घर है, who is the centralized entity which is saying कि ये तुम्हारा घर है? The government of India. When you buy a car, who is saying कि ये तुम्हारा है? Government of India, or मतलब RTO, road transport authority, whatever. All of these things. For the first time, you're able to prove this ownership without a centralized entity, and this is huge. And this will create a new wave of tokenization, market efficiency. Market efficiency का क्या meaning होता है? अगर कोई intermediary होता है, तो by definition there is going to be a decrease in efficiency. What does efficiency mean? If I have a house and I want to sell it to you, then there are going to be some taxes which are involved. There are going to be some legal fees which are involved. Somebody is going to have to go in and change the deed in the registry, things like that, and that is all going to cost money. That is going to decrease the efficiency with which I can sell my unique digital assets. So that is something which NFTs are going to revolutionize, because now I can trade very efficiently. मेरे पास घर है, मेरे पास उसका title deed है, I send it like a transaction to somebody else, he now owns it, game over. There is nobody in between who is going to say कि अच्छा ठीक है, ये tax का ये दे दो, वो करो, ये करो. Nothing like that. It's going to be very fast, very efficient. तुम्हें tax तो देना पड़ेगा, obviously capital gains वगैरह जो भी होगा, but market में efficiency बढ़ जाएगा. And this is possible because of the removal of trust friction. पहले ये सब intermediary क्यों था? Because we needed a trusted intermediary to ensure कि ये जो सब transactions होता है ये legit होता है क्या. If I say that I'm going to sell you my house, there should be somebody who says ki I own the house in the first place. That is the trust we needed, and that trust created friction. With the blockchain, you don't need a third entity. You don't need to go to the government and ask, does this person actually own the house? You can just query the chain, and it's a machine. So for that reason, trust friction come ho jayega, which the blockchain is providing. And for that reason, non-fungible tokens are a huge new wave. So what are the use cases? First thing is identity. Tumhara Aadhaar card, PAN card, all of these things, these are unique assets to you. Everything is unique based on that. These are all something which can be shown as a non-fungible token. When you are, let's say, when you become 18, the government can just send you an NFT which says कि अच्छा ठीक है, this is a PAN card, and उस NFT में सारा metadata होगा कि अच्छा this is your PAN card number, this is the date, this is the place where you were born. मतलब वो सब चीजें, even birth certificate, identity, तुम born हो जाओगे, तुम्हारा एक account बनेगा, so to speak, उसमें एक NFT आएगा जिसमें तुम्हारा birth का सब details है कि कहाँ born हुए, कौन से time पे हुए, कौन सा hospital में हुए, whatever. That is identity. The second one is certification. This is the thing I was talking about in terms of your degrees. If somebody says he is from BITS Pilani, he should be able to prove that he's from BITS Pilani. And a paper which has BITS Pilani's logo printed on it is not good enough for certification. There should be a way to certify, and that is something which the blockchain can provide. Physical asset deeds, as I said, home ownership, car ownership, things like that. Tickets and coupons. This is a very interesting use case. This can be done, for example, if you want to go to Disneyland, let's say. When you buy a ticket to Disneyland, what you can do is you can essentially pay from Ethereum ka thing. You will get an NFT saying that this is a ticket for this particular day. You are going to enter it this day and you're going to leave by this day. Okay. When you go in, you essentially send that NFT back to the account where it came from, and that will let you come in. So once that transaction is verified, the person at the gate will say कि अच्छा ठीक है, you can come in. And it will have its expiry कि अच्छा ठीक है, 3 दिन का expiry है, 3 दिन में नहीं आ गए तो automatically that NFT will get burned. So tickets and coupons is really cool. Collectibles. This is where all the hype is right now. This is all of the art NFTs जो भी अपन देखते हैं, like all of the art, these videos, music. That is the collectibles aspect of it. The reason I put it at 5th is because I believe this has the least use case. This is something which I strongly believe in. These 4 are the things which are the hardest to do, because मैंने पहले ही बोला था, this does not have inherent value add. मतलब तुम easily ये सब बचा नहीं सकते, पैसे इससे बचा नहीं सकते. That's why these are the hardest to implement. But collectibles inherently have value add. So for that reason, this is the easiest to do, and that's why this has been done first. ये धीरे धीरे बाकी सब भी आएंगे, ऐसे मेरा honest opinion है. So this is a sentence which is very important. It's very well worded, and that's why इतना सारा orange है इस sentence में. NFTs enable trustless verifiability. Okay, trustless verifiability of uniqueness and authenticity. So ये जो things, these are 2 different things for a reason. Uniqueness means you have one of one. Authenticity means that one of one is real. And trustless verifiability of that, along with new forms of fractional ownership. Samaj, there's a house. You and your brother, you live in a joint family. You and your brother want to buy that house. You can pay for it 50-50. Okay, and you can have proof that you paid for it 50-50. वो like अगर 2 ETH का घर है तो फिर तू 1 ETH डालेगा, तेरा भाई ETH डाले 1 ETH डालेगा, वो ट्रांजैक्शन ब्लॉकचेन पे आ जाएगा. Fractional ownership is proved right then and there. Game over. And tradability. This is like one of those sentences which if I were a school teacher, I would be like, इसको underline करो और star करो और चाहे तो highlight भी करो. This is what's going to change the world, in my opinion. So yeah, before we go to the next slide, I think there's some question. If I sell an animation clip or an image not made by me, but not an NFT already, as an NFT, is it legal? Yeah, this is like the place where legality meets ethics. So अगर समझो तुम्हारे पास एक image है जो तुम्हारी नहीं है, but हाँ पूरा gray area है, you can do it. You will earn a lot of money from it, and because it's decentralized, you can earn a lot of money from it. But at the same time, you may not earn that much money from it if you were the actual person who owned it. For example, if Pablo Picasso were alive, let's say, अगर तुम पिकासो की पेंटिंग लेके बेचते NFT, then you would not earn as much as if the verified Pablo Picasso was like, hey guys, listen, उसके social media पे I am selling this NFT, so will you buy it? So you will earn money, definitely you will earn money, but you will not earn money as much as the person who's actually selling it would make it. But by all means make money, because like the NFT market is crazy right now. Anything gets bought, anything gets sold. So अगर बनाने हैं पैसे बनाओ यार, मतलब it's all yours मतलब. So the non-fungible token landscape, I talked about composability. You can create a smart contract. You can create an NFT ecosystem जहाँ पे you use OpenSea as your marketplace, you use MetaMask as your layer, you use IPFS as your storage, you use Pixura as your minting layer. Minting layer matlab the place where it gets created, and you can use either let's say normal अपना layer 1 जो भी है Ethereum. You can do any of this permutation combination, create your own thing. This is the great thing about the current landscape. इतने सारे options है to create your solution, and if you can find the best of both worlds, the most optimized of all of these worlds, then you are going to make money. So yeah, I think we have some questions. So person's goodwill matters. Yes, you could flip NFTs. Yes, you could. The next big thing will start out looking like a toy. This is something which I fully agree. It is going to start out looking like a toy. NFTs are going to be are stupid toys. That is what the thing was 1 year ago. I am still in that phase, but NFTs are slightly interesting toys now. And a few years later, they're going to be a big deal. But they are going to be a big deal for different reasons, because they actually bring value. It's not just because कि अच्छा ठीक है ये random सा comic है, ये random सा GIF है which is going to get money. ऐसा नहीं है. There is going to be value behind it, and the person who's able to build the system which generates that value, like the person who builds the decentralized Aadhaar version, is going to make a lot of money. So what I'd say is don't go for like making like quick money by just making some random NFTs. Go for the big fish, because you're going to make billions. Yeah. Acha, yeah. Question hai. Just like VeeFriends from Gary Vee. Yeah, definitely. By all means, if you're Gary Vee, if you have somebody who has that sort of a marketable personality, then definitely you can make a lot of money using something like this. But why is this even in this position right now? Why are we looking at a few years out? Why can't it be next year? Why can't it be next month? That's because there's something called a Gartner hype cycle. ये थोड़ी technical सी term हो गई. One sec. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so what I was saying is यहाँ पे this is something called the Gartner hype cycle. So essentially Gartner hype cycle क्या होता है? This is a sort of thing which shows the progression of a technology over time. यहाँ पे you can see all of these things. Technology trigger हुआ. That means पहले बार life में ये technology explode हो गया, like life में, like people have heard about it for the first time. Then expectations start rising. Okay, people start to think, oh, this is the next big thing. Then it reaches the peak. It's at its peak, and it's the peak of inflated expectations, because the expectations are much higher than what the technology can provide. Then there's something called the trough of disillusionment, because then people realize, okay, this is the peak of this technology. यहाँ से तो नीचे ही जाना है. And then people realize all of its limitations, and then people feel, oh, this is actually a failure, and then it starts moving down. Then it reaches a bottom, like you would say like a minima, and then it goes through the slope of an enlightenment, because then people who are like veterans in this technology, who are here and here, they realize, like they know all this time these are the capabilities. Then they start building like the next Aadhaar, the next PAN card, whatever, and ye dheere dheere se it reaches the plateau of productivity. I think the best example of this is like Yahoo ka valuation. Yahoo started here, then it reached a peak when it was like, I think, the most valuable company in the world. Then it went down, because then they realized that search engine hai, and like web is becoming this huge thing and stuff. It was still a very highly valued company, don't get me wrong. But then all of these other competitors came in, Google is a much better search engine, blah, 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 things like that. And then it reached its maxima where it realized we are going to stay a search engine all our life. And then it died. So this is just an example. There are some doubts. Similar happened with AIS. What was the name for this? Gartner hype cycle. I'll put this in the chat. Gartner hype cycle. Gartner is a big company. Okay, Gartner is like a very large, very well-respected analysis company. The think tank essentially. What they do is they go through all of these trends, they do a lot of research, they're into market research, and they do very good market research, and they come out every year with I think the state of XYZ, मतलब the state of blockchain, the state of AI, ऐसे नाम का कोई magazine type छाप देता है वो, and that is what they essentially do. Yeah, and Gartner is very well respected across the world. Now this is 2020 का, 2021 का जुलाई में आएगा. So you can see this is the hype cycle for blockchain technologies in 2020. This is Gartner का ही है, तो मतलब यहाँ का लोगो छोड़ दो, ये Gartner का ही है. तो if you see ये जो है अपना blockchain asset tokenization, this is NFTs. NFT. Do you see where it is right now? It's here. It's just reaching the peak of inflated expectations. Why? Because right now people think, yaar, this is it, matlab, yahi hone wala hai, this is going to change the world. It's going to get here, trust me. There's probably going to be someone like Gary Vee or koi log aayenge, Shah Rukh Khan will sell an NFT. I'm telling you, all of this is going to happen. People are going to make money. Then there's going to be a crash in the NFT prices. And this is going to happen. People are going to realize कि अच्छा ठीक है, ये कुछ तो issue है. And then people are going to realize its limitations, which is what's happening to blockchain as a technology right now. People are understanding its limitations. And slowly after a few years, they're going to realize कि अच्छा ठीक है, these are the productive things we can do to it. And I would say, like, let's say a few more years from now, like 4 or 5 years, this is going to come here. Now you can see these are some indications which they've given. For NFTs, they've said 2 से 5 साल में यहाँ तक पहुंच जाएंगे. Blockchain के लिए also they've said this. So essentially what they're saying, one thing I'm very bullish on is this decentralized identity. This is essentially NFTs, but like a more specialized use case. And they're saying 5 से 10 साल में आएंगे. So it will take time, but it will slowly reach. So 2 से 5 साल, 5 से 10 साल, whatever. Yeah, this is the Gartner hype cycle. This is a really, really important thing which you should understand. This is a very business way of looking at it, business analysis type way of looking at it. तो इस पे कोई questions है क्या, पूछो? Plateau of productivity में क्या होता है? The question is essentially, Sridhar, I think you're sending direct messages to me. तो वो मतलब you can enable it to everyone, because I don't think everybody is able to see it. So plateau of productivity essentially क्या करता है? That means कि it's become a stable technology. For example, like web browsers, that is a stable technology. People understand कि web browser क्या होता है, क्या limitation होता है, and उससे मैं मेरी productivity कैसे बढ़ाऊँ. And there is nothing which somebody can do to add to the innovations in a web browser which is going to spike your productivity. Get it? Matlab, all I know is a web browser can help me browse the web. That's it. That's the plateau. इससे ऊपर तो जाने ही नहीं वाला. But इसके नीचे भी नहीं जाएगा because the technologies are more mature. So that is what plateau of productivity means. I'm waiting for it to crash with the current pace. It feels I'm lagging. Yeah, that's true. I'm also waiting for it to crash. But not because of a thing कि अच्छा ठीक है, I missed out on it. ऐसे कुछ spite नहीं है. I just wanted to crash because I want people to understand कि अच्छा ठीक है, ये नहीं है technology. Like there is much more to it than just like जो भी चल रहा है अभी. So yeah, I'm waiting for that revolution to happen. And trust me, it's gonna happen. Yeah, just wait for like 5 years, guaranteed. Cool. This is my last slide of this day. So what are the roadblocks to mass adoption? We saw here कि यहाँ पे है and उसके बाद यहाँ पहुँचना है. यहाँ कब पहुँचता है? जब mass adoption होता है. You know, lots of people are using NFTs. NFTs are used on a daily basis. जैसे Aadhaar reached mass adoption. Everybody has an Aadhaar card. वैसे how is blockchain का asset tokenization or NFT is going to reach plateau of productivity? It's going to take a lot of time. And what are the things which are preventing it from getting there? So there are some things. One is inaccessibility. So the most popular uses for NFTs are collectibles, art, and gaming, right? And although the market for these kind of assets should be naturally very large, which it is, like बहुत बड़ा market है इसके लिए, the fact is that NFTs are limited mainly to relatively veteran crypto users. What does that mean? तुम अगर तुम्हारे फैमिली के साथ बात करोगे क्रिप्टो करेंसीज के बारे में, तो कुछ नहीं समझ में आएगा उनको. Like you try to explain cryptocurrencies to them, they'll understand it. Then try to explain NFTs. Try to explain to them why somebody paid $69 million for a JPEG. they will never understand it. And for that reason, only people who are hardcore into this will understand how to use it. So for that reason, only collectors, art enthusiasts and gamers, I would say, like gaming mein, if anybody has played like Call of Duty or something, us pe guns pe bahut sare skins hote hain which you can buy and sell on a marketplace. So essentially that is inaccessibility. Small pockets of the world are going to like use it right now. So once everything becomes accessible, then it will open up that roadblock to mass adoption. The second one is novel technology. So the technology behind NFTs is only a few years old. ठीक है, बहुत young है. And because of that, it's very new in the sense that we are looking at the Netscape navigator of web browsers. Mozilla Firefox आना है, Safari आना है, the Google Chrome of NFTs is yet to come. And for that reason, like the understanding around these assets is very poor. Like NFTs के safety and authenticity के बारे में बहुत लोगों को कुछ पता ही नहीं होता है. And this means that current adopters of NFT technology are well within the early adopter niche user demographic. What that means is, all the people who are going to buy NFTs right now, they're very niche people. Essentially, we are all the bleeding edge technology savvy people who are going to end up buying this stuff right now. The random grandmother, grandfather, the random parent is not going to invest in this because they have no clue what's happening. Then the third thing is transaction fees. As we all know, by Ethereum Pay, the transaction fees are insanely high. We saw in that graph the other day where to send some Bitcoin or some Ethereum, there was some $30 ka transaction fee or whatever. And NFTs are no exception to it because they're all built on the Ethereum blockchain. So since most of these are live on the Ethereum blockchain today, creating and transacting these NFTs will depend on the network activity and hence the transaction fees. And for that reason, that is going to be a huge roadblock. जब तक ये sort नहीं होता, तब तक तो कहीं आगे नहीं जा रहा है. Then the fourth thing is difficult real world linkage. Now, at the end of the day, it is a digital thing. Okay, what I am essentially selling you when I sell you an NFT is the ownership of something digital. But by definition, Web 2.0 means you can infinitely replicate something digital. What does that mean? एक website होगी और okay, एक image होगा. I can just copy paste it into my computer. I don't own it, but I still have a copy paste into it. There is no way to enforce somebody from not copy pasting it. So there is a real world linkage issue where nobody is able to like link it properly into something in the real world. One example where I see this can like sort of save itself is, I think Nike is coming out with a shoe which is connected to the blockchain. I'm not saying connected as in like it has Wi-Fi in it. I'm saying when you buy that shoe, you are given the ownership of that token into your like whatever Ethereum account or whatever, and that's an NFT. So essentially, you own it, and it shows that you are like a part of the whole new Nike thing and whatever. This is happening right now, and this is like the small steps which people are taking towards in the future. Let's say buying a car which has an NFT link up. Like I'm surprised Elon Musk has not done the whole. Acha, when you buy a Tesla car, you can get like a Tesla NFT or something. I'm very surprised yet tak hua nahi hai. But this is one thing which is definitely going to happen. But until this doesn't happen, and until some massive company doesn't do this, real world linkage is going to stay an issue. And finally, regulation. Regulation तो हर बार problem होता ही है, and because NFT's ability to not be represented easily in real world assets, it's going to keep becoming a problem. And at the end of the day, this can be a deterrent to developers also, because तुम ऐसे सोचो ना, at this point अगर मैं Web 2.0 पे कोई ऐप रिलीज करता हूँ और एक Web 3.0 पे ऐप रिलीज करता हूँ, by that I mean blockchain versus normal centralized web, where is it more like I will have to take a call, like a financial call about where it is for me कि मेरे को फायदा कहाँ हो रहा है in terms of like मेरा profit margins कहाँ पे है, मेरे server cost कैसे low रहेंगे. Like if I buy an AWS का instance, that costs so much less than like minting an NFT or something like that. So out of the pocket cost for all of this stuff is very high. And for that reason, the regulation, both from like a developer perspective, like mass adoption wise, and from a government perspective, both are going to be massive roadblocks. Yeah, so that's pretty much it from my end. Let me know what questions you guys have now. I'm surprised just बहुत questions नहीं है, मेरे को anticipated ज़्यादा थे. Cool, no questions. वेल ओके देन cool. I hope तुम लोग को ये सब समझ में आ गया अच्छे से. I'm still going to put in a few videos on the group and on this thing. Some about this. कहाँ गया वो? ये 4 चीजों के बारे में I'm going to put some videos out. Yield farming के बारे में एक वीडियो डालूंगा. These things will help you understand on a more technical level क्या होता है under the hood. And when you are going to have a conversation with someone in the future, you can talk about these terms and you can blow their minds कि भाई इसको yield farming पता है, इसको पता है वो Uniswap क्या होता है. That's going to like लोगों के आंखों में respect आ जाती है when you talk about these things in a competent way. I'm not saying कुछ भी फेंको, but वीडियो सही से समझ लो. कोई भी डाउट आ गया तो फिर पूछ लो. Difference between yield farming and staking वीडियो में समझ में आ जाएगा. Like yield farming is a huge topic. Wanted to know about MetaMask. MetaMask is just a वो कहाँ गया, मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ. हाँ, so custody layer क्या होता है is essentially what you're asking. तो what a custody layer essentially means is it's a way for you to interact with Web 3.0. Okay, ये तुम हो human and you want to interact with the Web 3.0. Yeah, my drawing is really bad. Whatever. So what is happening here is there has to be some person, something which enables you to interact with this and enables you to securely interact with your accounts, securely allow you to like deploy like all your contracts, all of those things. That is called a custody layer. Custody layer क्यों बोलते हैं? Because this has the custody of some of your coins. MetaMask में देखा होगा when we did the whole Ropsten पे deploy करो contract thing, तब it had your ETH on it. So it has custody of your ETH. That's why it's called a custody layer. Now what that essentially does is when you log into it, you are able to utilize it however you want. And that is what MetaMask does. Like even if you saw her transaction के वक्त it was asking you for a confirmation. That's because it is confirming कि every single thing you do, it is like it is saying कि अच्छा ठीक है, there is some human who had put my password in, who now has the ability to control the funds which I have custody on and is now authorizing me to do this transaction. That is what MetaMask does. MetaMask you can say is like a wallet with a lock on it and तुम्हारे पास की है and जब भी तुम चाबी घुमाते हो उससे पैसे निकाल सकते हो, but then खुद से लॉक हो जाता है and then the process happens again and again. So that is what MetaMask is. Again, MetaMask is not a wallet. Okay, MetaMask is just a place जहां से तुम ये temporarily fund रख सकते हो. A wallet is again all of these Coinbase, this Binance वगैरह. That is stuff where you can like put it, you can like invest and stuff. That is what a wallet is proper. हमने I think बात भी की थी hot wallet, cold wallet वगैरह. MetaMask से rudimentary functionalities कर सकते हो. You can send, you can only send and you can receive. You can't invest, you can't swap, things like that. Hopefully that sorted that. What problem is Polygon trying to solve? So Polygon क्या होता है? Polygon is solving the problem of scalability. तो the problem of scalability is जैसे हमने पहले बात की थी, all of these chains, Bitcoin, Ethereum, they have very low transaction speeds. What these guys are trying to do is छोटे-छोटे side chains बनाओ, like chains जहाँ पे ये transactions local level पे authorize हो जाते हैं, and then after a set number of blocks, let's say 10 blocks के बाद, it just sort of uploads the state of that particular chain to the main chain. तो main chain को after some time update आ जाती है कि अच्छा ठीक है, यहाँ पे ये transaction हुआ, वो transaction हुआ, things like that, and it was verified off chain almost. So it's like a off chain, but still it's a blockchain. मतलब इसका भी video भेज दूंगा. Essentially what it's trying to do is it's trying to solve the scalability issue. There are again a lot of other things which you can talk about. There's something called sharding. Sharding is like creating parts of the main chain. मतलब you're sort of chopping the main chain up into smaller chains. Then there's something called side chains. Side chains मतलब छोटे-छोटे chains होते हैं जहाँ से transactions होते हैं and then ऊपर like ऊपर उसका communication जाता है. ऊपर as in like visually ऊपर like to the main chain. You can look at it as पंचायत सिस्टम है इंडिया में. पंचायत छोटे छोटे होते हैं, वहां पे थोड़े लोकल लेवल पे होता है. अगर उस लेवल पे कोई इशू हो गया, देन इट गोज अप टू लाइक स्टेट कोर्ट, हाई कोर्ट टाइप. मतलब डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट होता है, फिर हाई कोर्ट होता है, फिर आई थिंक सुप्रीम कोर्ट होता है. तो that is how the flow happens. Now the Supreme Court is not going to handle every single issue, right? It's just going to handle the big ones, and it's still going to maintain a record of all of the issues which happened in all of these panchayats. But there's going to be some sort of record. That is what side chains and like these other things are doing. थोड़ा लंबा हो गया आंसर, but yeah, the answer to your question is efficiency बढ़ा रहे by scalability increase करके. Just out of curiosity, if you followed Silicon Valley, यार Silicon Valley बहुत देखी नहीं मैंने, but हाँ cool. Ends with a very wild conclusion that AI powered with decentralized internet starts becoming uncontrollable monsters. Oh damn. अच्छा हाँ, have you guys heard of this guy called Naval Ravikant? I don't know if you guys have. Okay, awesome. कोई तो है. So Naval Ravikant is this really cool guy, and he talks about all of these things. हाँ, बहुत लोगों को नहीं पता यार नवल रविकांत. तो he had come up in this podcast where he had said कि there are two kinds of intelligence. One is a specific intelligence, pattern recognition type, and one is a general intelligence, okay, that can be smart enough to be able to like handle everything that the world throws at it. So machine learning right now, and I think for many years to come, is going to be very good at pattern recognition, because a bit from what I've heard from podcasts, not just Naval Ravikant, but like all of these, and a lot from my perspective, if any of you have done actual like machine learning का development, you will realize कि तुम छोटा सा छोटा पैरामीटर बदलोगे तो पूरा का पूरा डिफरेंट हो जाता है आउटपुट तुम्हारा. Like there are something called hyper parameters, which are like essentially things you tweak in your machine learning algorithm, and based on that you can get different levels of outputs, okay, like different accuracies and stuff. You can literally like there might be a hyper parameter where let's say it's 5 right now, okay, like it's like a big equation jahan pe there's like a variable jahan pe tumne wo 5 rakha hai, okay, and your accuracy right now is 95%. तूने वो 6 कर दिया, then it becomes 96%. You make it 7, it becomes 98%. You might think बढ़ाओगे तो like 100% पहुंचेगा, but it might happen कि you make it 10 and the accuracy drops to like 60%. It's absurd. Okay, like AI after a point is, at least for me, a black box, because मैंने उतना deep कभी गया नहीं. And for that reason, like the point of this example was, is it practically possible? Probably yes. Is it happening anytime soon? Probably not. Because like ये सब issues इतने बड़े हैं कि like we're in the infancy, bro. We have no clue क्या हो रहा है. We have no clue how like all of these things which are building around us are going to affect us in the future. Again, there's also a YouTube channel called Vox, which is really good. VOX. मैं डाल दूंगा यहाँ for all the people who haven't heard of it. They came out with this really good video, I think आज या कल, about captchas. तो पहले कैप्चर्स क्या थे? just a way to ensure कि Sybil attacks नहीं होते. Sybil attack we spoke about in I think the second class, where you can create multiple identities, like 1 million accounts बना दिए और वो अकाउंट से वोटिंग करना चालू कर दिया, तो now you have 1 million votes. तो how do you ensure कि कोई बॉट नहीं है जो बनाता है? तो you use a captcha. That's captcha version 1. Then version 2 क्या था? Version 2 was text. तो like बहुत सारे text के होते हैं ना, like there's a word and then you type in the correct word, and only if it's correct then it lets you go ahead वगैरह वगैरह. Then captcha V3 is this image stuff which we have right now, कि मतलब fire hydrant ढूंढो, या there's a photo of a bridge and then they say bridge को select करो, things like that. Now in all of these things, like version 1, we understood what the AI was doing, that the AI was simply ensuring कि बाकी bots अंदर नहीं आते. V2 was it ensuring कि text सही से pattern recognition कर सकता है, to the point where now AI got really good at pattern recognizing text. But now we have no clue what we are training the bot to do. Like what is it going to be good at? Like seeing fire hydrants, like मतलब क्या है, we have no clue. And this is something we'll see in the very future. So at this point I am sort of scared कि क्या हो सकता है, because like we have no clue what we are doing. But at the same time I am fairly confident कि यार कुछ होगा नहीं. GPT-3 can write blogs very much, like yeah, agreed. In fact GPT-3 is really cool to the point where यार हमारे कॉलेज के असाइनमेंट्स जो ऐसे टिपिकल ह्यूमैनिटीज के थे यार, okay I'm going to stop the recording.